Ladies and gentlemen, children of the interwebs out there, Sebastian Envy, Strong Style, Cinephile, and Miss Marvel. There's a lot of M's in that name. Well, there's two M's in that name, but there's another important M that was uttered on Miss Marvel, and let's geek about it for a few minutes because this changes so many things. Like they said the M word in the MCU. The M word was uttered in the MCU on Miss Marvel. That M word is mutation. Say it with me, mutation. Kamala is the MCU's first known mutant. Now, do you understand what that means? Implications of that. I mean, all of us were just wondering, because we felt it was inevitable, and it is, that once the whole rights thing with Fox and everything, that we were going to get X-Men mutants in the MCU at some point in time in phase, 5 or 6 or something like that. We knew it was coming. What we didn't know is we were going to get it with Miss Marvel, because in the comics, Miss Marvel is an Inhuman. There was some thought that maybe the Inhumans at some point in time are going to kind of take the place of mutants in the comics. We know that Kamala gets her powers from the Terrigen Mist, and they change things for the show. They have this bangle that's cosmic, and the reason why it only works for Kamala is because of a certain mutation. But Marvel tried to bring the Inhumans to the screen, and in that failed Inhumans TV show, that failed just garbage TV show, and seeing Anson Mount back as Black Bolt in Multiverse of Madness and seeing him just get his head blown out was basically like the swan song of the Inhumans in the MCU as we know it at this point. Maybe in phase 8, 9, something like that, they'll try to circle back around and bring some of them forth, because there are some Inhumans characters that are good. And of course, you have Crystal, who has ties to the Fantastic Four in some ways. So if you get going with the Fantastic Four, which they should soon, you might want to circle back around and bring in some Inhumans, bring in Crystal at least. Okay, so we might get back to the Inhumans, but for right now, that's not going to be a thing in the MCU. So they had to change kind of where Kamala comes from. And this whole series was about, and in the series as a whole, I debated doing episode by episode, and I just decided, no, I'm gonna just let the whole series hit. Then I'm gonna go back and watch it again, and then kind of give my thoughts about the whole thing, because it kind of felt like one of those like Marvel shows where it's like, has a strong premise, it has good acting, good parts about it, but it's just not sticking the landing. But does that even matter at this point? Because they said the M word. Now, where is this going to go in the future as far as Kamala's appearance in the Marvels alongside Brie Larson's Captain Marvel remains to be seen. But just the fact that we're starting down this road of mutants and mutation and mutants in the MCU, how long is it going to be till we see the X-Men? Oh, I'm just dying to see just an MCU X-Men, just see them done, because I think they'll get it right. I mean, Fox did some okay things, but for the most part, but to have them in the MCU, see them in the proper costumes, because the MCU is not going to shy away from putting them in some interpretation of their proper comic book costumes, not just black leather. It's even for that alone. I mean, we got Patrick Stewart, and that's probably going to be like the last time we see him as Professor X. That's fine. He had a good run in the Fox films, and he was cool in Multiverse of Madness. It was cool to see him. But I'm all for doing a younger, just newer Charles Xavier, just redoing the X-Men and just mutants in general for the MCU. I mean, just starting with the X-Men, man, if we can get to X-Factor, if we can get to X-Force in the MCU, oh, like actual, not Deadpool X-Force, not the farce that was. It was funny. Okay, I enjoyed it. I'm not knocking it, but to see a proper X-Force, because X-Force is one of my favorite, all-time favorite X-teams, but to see a proper Siren and Wolfsbane and Warpath and a Shatterstar, just the potential, just this one little word just changes just the direction of like the MCU going forth. It's just, and I've seen on some message boards where some people were kind of getting, they just didn't feel phase 4, which is what we're in, was just amounting to much of anything. I had read a report, so I was going to do a video on it, that there's somebody talking about the Phase 4, and the idea behind Phase 4 is trauma, and the characters are dealing with trauma of the blip and some other things, but it didn't really feel that way across what Phase 4 has been. And you felt some of that with WandaVision, with Wanda. You felt some of that in Black Widow-ish in the movie, maybe some of it in Hawkeye. But it just, for me, Shang-Chi was totally kind of distanced from any effect of the blip or whatever. So there's stuff like that where and even in like Thor Ragnarok, Love and Thunder, it didn't really feel connected to this overarching theme of trauma in this Phase 4. It's just him trying to find out who he is and what his destiny is and stuff like that. But I mean, he's been trying to do that since like the first Thor. So we're just kind of spinning our wheels with him. So it just didn't feel like Phase 4 is really amounting to a lot to certain people, as far as any sort of connected theme or overarching, theme or plan for it. But this here, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore because they said mutation. Kamala is a mutant, which actually the creators back in like 2012, 2013 actually originally wanted Kamala to be a mutant. But they just put her in the humans, rest is history. But going forth, Kamala is a mutant. Now, of course, she just kind of dismisses it as another label, and that's another thing about the series that Ms. Marvel is tackling, just labels and labels people put on you, and just trying to figure out who you are, where you come from, who you want to be, that sort of self-growth, self-discovery type of thing. That's cool, but again, it doesn't matter because Kamala's a mutant. Mutants are in the MCU. This means that mutants are already here. And a lot of people kind of wondering, okay, how are they going to introduce mutants? Is it going to be some event? Is it going to be a multiverse thing where the multiverse opens up and then they spill forth? Or are they already here, just kind of on the low, and certain appearances or occurrences of mutancy is kind of being scrubbed from the internet, or from, just scrubbed. Kind of, people are kept in it, like this mutant thing has been brewing, but the government, damage control, S.H.I.E.L.D., and other sort of entities are keeping it kind of quashed and keeping it away from the people. But in the first X-Men movie, or kind of movies leading up to the X-Men movie, it's going to start, like the dam is going to start to break, and mutants are going to come flooding out. That's what I think it's going to be, and that's cool. So this is just the start. Kamala Khan in the MCU is a mutant. They have said the M word. And this changes everything. I know I'm scatterbrained. My thoughts are scattered more than they usually are, but I'm just stupidly giddy because of what this means. The potential for the potential for what they can do and where they can take the MCU. Now that, we've kind of been wondering where they're going to do without the big three, where they're going to do without Iron Man and Captain America and Thor. I guess Thor's still kicking around or whatever. But the main Avengers, what are they going to do after them? Well, mutants. That is the logical next thing to jump to, and mutants can carry the next couple phases. Mutants can give them billions upon billions of dollars in potential movies, new trilogies, and stuff like that. Oh, God, man, mutants, MCU, they're here, more of them are coming, and it's going to be great. That's just Anyway, those are my thoughts on it. Scattered as they often are, but you guys out there to think. Let me know in the comments below. Follow me on social media. Talk to me there. Talk to me here. Go check out Ms. Marvel. It's decent. But, mutants, MCU. God, let us geek.